Oh boy. I'm probably going to bring a whole crap storm down upon me by delving into this topic. But there's doing things the right way, the healthy way, the smart way, and then there is creating a boogeyman and burning it in effigy. Connecticut town holds drive to collect and destroy violent video games. A small community about 30 miles away from the site of the Newtown massacre is organizing a voluntary video game return program aimed at collecting video games from families and likely burning them. I think, to be honest with you, you can read the article down in the underbar. I'm not going to, dissuade you from doing so. But I think this one quote sums this up quite well. There are youngsters who appear to be consumed with violent video games. I'm not certain if that's a good thing. Oh, you're not certain. You yourself are not certain. That is such a good thing. Gee, I didn't realize you had a PhD in all this. I didn't realize you had studied all of the available data and made up your mind. You've blown my mind with the wealth of information that you're putting out there. I want to take a moment to make this extremely clear, as I have tried to do many, many times throughout this situation here. Many things are to blame. Video games are not one of them. Somebody who actually researches video games says that media influences violence just isn't there. Let me go to the person's quotes because, again, I'm dealing with a bit of a time period, but links to all relevant information will, of course, be in the underbar. As a video game violence researcher, we're talking with Chris Ferguson, professor of psychology and criminal justice at Texas A&M University. And he is not the only one, but if I were to hunt down all of my links to support a lot of what's saying here, we'd be here all night. But if you guys so wish it, I will put further information down in the underbar at a later time. Chris says, as a video game violence researcher and someone who has done scholarship on mass homicides, let me state very emphatically, there is no good evidence that video games or other media contribute, even in a small way, to mass homicides or any other violence among youth. Ferguson then goes on to talk about this exact tragedy. At this point, we don't know much about Adam Lanza's media use history, given that, as researcher Cheryl Olson and Lawrence Kuttner notes in their book Grand Theft Childhood, almost all young males play video games at least occasionally. It's playing the odds to say Lanza did too, but that has all the predictive power of saying that that he sometimes wore sneakers or ate breakfast. In their 2002 evaluation of school shooters the U.S. Secret Service found no evidence to suggest that these perpetrators consumed more media violence than anyone else. There's a link down to the article also that goes into further depth besides this article that I just read. And again, you might consider this in bad taste, but I brought back my Grand Theft Auto 4 mousepad so that I can direct my video as I'm going along here, as well as to be able to read my pertinent information to you. far be it for me to say how people should mourn. But of the things that we are currently doing, this out of everything makes me ask, to what effect does this matter? Is this really going to make the parents feel any better? Is this going to magically bring those kids back? Is this going to suddenly erase the pain and the suffering that these parents are going through when this had nothing, I repeat, nothing to do with this unfortunate tragedy? This would be like executing some guy on death row who was already set up for execution and saying, there's your blood. We have shed the blood for you for this tragedy. This person was, in fact, had nothing to do with this crime. This would be like stopping drinking milk. This would have no discernible effect on what happened, nor would it have any effect on stopping what will happen in the future, especially if we don't address a lot of the societal ills that have led us along this path of ruin. But I don't see the point. Now, it's not because of my love of video games, although that's actually been waning in recent times thanks to the industry's own practices, which again makes me question whether I should continue my series and maybe do my part to get people away from games, not because they're bad for them, but because they are an absolute slap in the face to each and every consumer out there, amongst other problems that I have with the industry. But I have to decide whether that's an actual social topic. This is a social topic, however. We have people who think that this creates your Adam Lanzas, and that by destroying, burning, almost Gestapo style, burning these horrific, things, that this will somehow bring closure to this situation or somehow set it right. What's this going to do? Does anybody else heard the saying, those who go out looking for blood typically find it? Usually you go on these quests, you go and you do these things, and you think, oh, now I can be at peace, now I can fix things. Or you track down that person, or you look that killer right in the eye who killed your family while they're sitting in the chamber, or whether they're on the electric chair, and the switch is thrown. And you know what statistics tend to say in the case of families who go to the executions of people who've done horrible things to their family? Typically, there's a small bit of feeling of goodness, and then everything comes back. It solves, in more cases than not, nothing for the families of the victims who had to go through these trials and these lengthy processes to get to this point to where they are standing there watching the person who harmed people who cared about them die. Moreover, how is this productive? We have no evidence that this does anything other than actually decrease violent crimes, especially amongst young adults, since the rise in violent content in things like Grand Theft Auto and other games of that nature. Violent crimes amongst youth have actually plummeted. I dare say violent crimes amongst people slightly older than that has plummeted a slight bit, although that one's a harder one to pin down in terms of enough of a statistic to be able to show enough causation or correlation in this case. This just seems like a meaningless, empty gesture, and I doubt very highly that unless you just don't like games for moralistic reasons, which is what this sounds like, that you're not going to get anything out of this. Certainly not anything you think you're going to get out of this. And this is dragging those victims' families right back out and making this whole thing seem ridiculous, making them, by proxy, seem ridiculous. And then again, I ask, what does this accomplish? What is this doing? And is it really worth all that? I don't know. Time will tell.